Hello, my name is David Suber and I'm running for co-president in Democracy in Education.
Well, thank you for joining me, David. Could you tell me why you're running for Democracy in Education co-president?
Yes, I'm running because I've been in the I've been working and representing students in the school structures for the past 2 years, as I wrote in my manifesto, and I believe to have gathered some knowledge of how the school works that I can actually use and repropose in this position for a year long, and I'm taking it as a full-time job in order to improve the actual system that's in place.
So what's one policy, if you were to be elected, that you would want to implement and be your legacy?
Well, it's kind of one policy. Well, by being in the union this year, I really and having as an academic affairs officer, I had to deal with the system, which actually it's not a system because we don't have a system in place, of the student representatives, which is a target that the student union has set itself some time ago, and which always repropose to actually make it work. And to how I came to know it, it's very much the system is in place on individual people's shoulders, and so there is no general understanding of how the student reps are to be integrated within the student unions and the mechanisms of the school as a whole. I have some ideas on how to actually change this, and obviously it's a long-term process. So I mean, once, if I ever get elected, and once I leave the place, this project will have to be enhanced by the people that follow.
I remember in your manifesto, which is available for anyone to read, you said that the SOAS bureaucratic machine has rusty gears. What did you mean by that, and how do you see yourself working within that machine?
By rusty gears, I meant so the ways that the SOAS bureaucracy comes into being in the meetings that these people hold every 2 or 3 months, and according to what kind of board there is at different times actually, and of the ways that these meetings go about. I've been sitting on these boards, and to me it took me 2 years to finally actually understand what was written in those papers, because as a rep I had no training of what, so I had to learn by myself, and it took a long time. So it was difficult to understand the bureaucratic language, for example, in which these papers are written, and the procedures that these boards actually implement to have things done. They are very, I define them as rusty because they are tied to a legacy of how to make, of how the school works, which is very old and very it doesn't really represent the new needs of the university, and how universities in the market of whether higher education need to work in order to be more more appealing to the public.
So how do you see yourself trying to work with management, balancing being representative of students and any personal opinions that you have now? Is it worth calling them old when you're trying to work with them?
Yes, it is. Obviously, whatever, the students have to work with the management. It's not a battle of seeing them as the enemy or the target of every student-led initiative, but it has to be a dialogical kind of relationship. And obviously, management is very interested in having students' opinion. It has always been, and it will always be. Nevertheless, the role as students, I don't want to get in a rhetorical point here, but the role of students, according to how the system of your higher education is changing itself. And in this way, we kind of have some bargaining tools to use with management, and that they cannot ignore. So the whole process of which I am working on is to try and find an alternative way for students to engage with management in a way that they cannot actually continue ignoring us like they have been doing for the past years.
Well, I spoke to David East earlier this year, who's the current Democracy in Education co-president, and he said that on board meetings, the lecturers and the official board members always outnumber the students, and he finds SOAS Uni to be the worst for that in the country. And he actually said that Exeter have a good idea of 50% of students on every board meeting. What do you think about that, and would you consider trying to implement that policy if you were to be elected?
What do I do to increase the accountability? What it's already in place, but very not widely followed, is the fact that during UGMs, the exec and the sabbaticals actually give a report on what they have been doing between the last UGM and that current UGM, and I think this is quite important for those moments of, the UGM is also an informative moment, so people actually get to follow up and understand what the executive and the sabbaticals have been doing since the last UGM. The point is, for example, that maybe UGMs should be more often in order that this kind of information gets passed better. And I think it could be. It's also a problem maybe of visibility. Officers, executive officers, and sabbatical officers should be seen a lot and should be available very much. So the accountability process has to be, you don't really have to be accountable on, presenting what the job that you have done on a piece of paper every morning, but by letting people know that you're actually active, people, the students will realize, students know very well who's been doing what. So the accountability process comes by working, I think.
Okay, but just on your point about the UGMs, and in your manifesto you say that the UGMs need to be revitalised, and you say that frequent UGMs are needed to stitch the SOAS community back together. Is the SOAS community broken?
Is this, sorry?
SOAS community, is it broken? Does it need stitching back together?
I think so. I mean, it's not broken, it's fragmented. And it's fragmented because we don't think, because there are some people because the student community in itself is so diverse that it is according to what people study. So if they are undergraduates, postgraduates, they have kind of different ways of living their day, and different interests and different kind of ways of going through their studies. Nevertheless, a fundamental reorganization of the space that is available to students is, for example, a crucial need to kind of, I use the word stitching back the SOAS student community, because when I came at SOAS, I kind of had more, this is basically a lot on my personal opinion, on my personal experience. I had the feeling that there wasn't that great divide between undergraduates and master students, for example. I was free, I felt a lot free to go up to the postgrad common room, and I saw lots of students and PhDs hanging around the JCR. And also, according to events, I mean, this is not really my field, but more events were organized by people within SOAS, and integrating older people, younger students, in the running of societies, in the running of events, in the life and in the moment of the UGMs. Well, in the last year, I've seen kind of this not happening really, and every group is very self-referential. So undergraduates, they do their things, and according to who is in the union, then it's very we stick together to the people we know, rather than trying and integrate the wider student community altogether.
So just to finish off, can you describe yourself in 3 words that make you the best candidate for this job?
Okay, 3 words. Well, I am committed to the work. I'm definitely, I've worked on this a lot, and I've thought about these things a lot, and I hope that this commitment will actually be manifested also outside, because I don't know how that passes through. And I so you want 3 characteristics?
So 2 more words.
2 more words. Well, I'm definitely a happy person. I don't know that if that is instead something that transpires quite a lot, but and I like to be reachable, and so out there for people. This job actually doesn't revolve around a single student taking decisions for everyone else, but about being able to listen to what are the inputs coming from the student body, because if we don't want to continue repeating our mistakes, then we have to start actually including the voice of students into the policies that the student union actually runs. And for example, in the drafting the student union educational priorities, this system is never put into place. Well, I think that educational priorities are not a priority of the elected SAB, but of the student community as a whole, to come up with what are the needs of the student community that year.